Mr. TJ Shaheen, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Bradley. It's been a long time coming back to Fort Worth and Flower Mound, Texas. This is great here, man. I love the view. It's been awesome, and thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're here. Have you bought any real estate? Now's the time to get in. Texas, it's a big state. Think about it.
Well, listen, Texas is a big state. New Jersey, is the most dense state in the union.
Is this true?
It is true. And Texas is also, second behind Alaska. I don't know if you have a problem with that, but Alaska is basically holds the belt on both of us.
This is true.
We're the densest. You're second in as far as biggest, but yeah, it's a little tidbit. I know you like to hit me with tidbits. I just thought I'd drop them with you.
And you did. Well done. All right, we're here talking about Boiler Room. Question for you. Scale of 0 to 100. 100, I'm going to combine them. 100 points is Godfather 1 and Godfather 2 smashed into one. Cinematic excellence. All right? This is my scoring system. I'm forcing it upon you. 0, there's a movie called Mother with an exclamation point. Came out maybe 6 or 7 years ago. It's the worst thing I've ever seen. I'm going to give that a 0. Okay. Where would you put Boiler Room as a movie overall? How many points there on my scale?
I'd say 60.
60?
Yeah.
That feels right. I was going to go like 64. Now, as a sales movie, different criteria. I got Glenn Ross as, 100. Okay. There's no real 0. There's only like really 15, 16 really good sales movies. I think this is a really good sales movie. Would you agree?
I think it's a good sales movie. I think Glenn Ross is a good sales movie. And there's a lot of similarities between the two. So Glenn Ross for me is always going to be my number one. Yeah. And this could be, 2, 3, maybe the sixth man coming off the bench.
Okay.
Thing.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
When we talked about doing this podcast, I said, you got to select a movie. You selected a couple movies that I rejected out of hand on principle. Let's talk about them briefly. The number one movie that you wanted to talk about, trying to convince me was a sales movie, was what?
It wasn't Mother. That's for sure. With the exclamation point.
Correct.
But I sent you a text or an email with several exclamation points that said it has to be American Psycho.
Correct.
If not, you're not aware of it, then go to option 2, which would be Tropic Thunder. Yes.
Correct.
I
American
did say
Psycho.
that, for the record, yes.
Yes. I hate to admit this. I went down a rabbit hole. I watched like the first half of the movie again, trying to come around to your perspective. Utter failure. Unable to do so. You wanted American Psycho, couldn't do it. Tropic Thunder was your backup. I believe Fletch, which I found intriguing because I do think good salespeople, and in particular, the prospecting, the craft of prospecting is an investigation. So on a long enough timeline, I might come around to Fletch. I do love Fletch. Never thought of it as a sales movie. Maybe. Was there a fourth one? I feel like there's another fourth bad option that I shut down.
Yeah, there was, there was a fourth one. It was that Naked Gun, Airplane, all those kind of, there's all little things you can carve out, but then you're getting into series, right? It's just not one. There's Airplane 1, there's Airplane 2. It's like Caddyshack, so... Yeah, so what happens, those movies are so great, Bradley, that they feel a need to make another one, not like Mother with the exclamation point.
Correct. So I felt like when I said, hey, select a sales movie, you just, in your mind, omitted sales. And we're like, let's just talk movies. It'd be great to talk Airplane with you. I'd say it could be. We're not going to do that here. Okay. All right. Yeah. So Boiler Room. You gave it a 60. I gave it a 64 overall. I would put it into the 90s in a sales movie perspective. We're going to focus on 4 scenes. Okay. Maybe give a quick overview on an audio version of the trailer. Give the audience, if they're not familiar with Boiler Room, what's it about?
So basically it's about a pump and dump firm that is run really fictitiously. And they're hiring brokers in some sort of chop shop in a warehouse in Long Island. They're out there trying to compel innocent people to buy and trade. They invest money with them, they pump up the stock, and then they shed it and dump it, and they lose all the money. They make money on the commissions, and at the end of the day, the FBI gets on to them, and we all know how that ends. It happened a lot in our era, so it was a movie that was of value for sure at the time, and it is a good movie. It's from 2000. That year, and it says a lot. A lot of good actors are in it. So no, it was good. It was an enjoyable movie for sure.
Yeah, Giovanni Ribisi, Vin Diesel, Ben Affleck has just some fantastic scenes. He kind of steals the show with a few of these scenes. One that we're going to start with. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's these guys who are doing hard sale, single call closes on crappy stocks that are really for the benefit of the owner of this firm. JT Marlin sounds absurdly similar to JP Morgan, but is not. So, all right, that's a segue. Lots of really good sales scenes. We're going to focus on 4 here. So let's run the first clip now.
I'm not here to waste your time, okay? And I certainly hope you're not here to waste mine. So I'm going to keep this short. Become an employee of this firm, you will make your first $1 million within 3 years, okay? I'm going to repeat that. You will make $1 million within 3 years of your first day of employment at JT Marlin. There is no question as to whether or not you'll become a millionaire working here. The only question is how many times over. You think I'm joking? I am not joking. I am a millionaire. It's a weird thing to hear, right? I'll tell you, it's a weird thing to say. I am a millionaire. I guess how old I am. 27. You know what that makes me here? A senior citizen. This firm is entirely comprised of people your age, not mine. Lucky for me, I happen to be very good at my job, or I'd be out of one. You guys are the new blood. You're going to go home with the Kesef. You are the future big swinging of this firm. Now, y'all look money hungry, and that's good. Anybody tells you money's the root of all evil doesn't have any. They say money can't buy happiness. Look at the smile on my face. Ear to ear, baby. You want details? Fine. I drive a Ferrari, 355 Cabriolet. What's up? I have a ridiculous house in the South Fork. I have every toy you can possibly imagine. And best of all, kids, I am liquid. So, now you know what's possible. Let me tell you what's required. You are required to work your ass off at this firm. We want winners here, not pikers. A piker walks at the bell. Piker asks how much vacation time you get in the first year. Vacation time? People come and work at this firm for one reason, to become filthy rich. That's it. We're not here to make friends. We're not saving manatees here, guys. You want vacation time? Go teach 3rd grade public school. Okay. First 3 months at the firm are as a trainee. You make $150 a week. After you're done training, you take the Series 7. You pass that, you become a junior broker, and you're opening accounts for your team leader. You open 40 accounts, you start working for yourself. Sky's the limit. Word or two about being a trainee, your friends, your parents, the other brokers, whoever, they're going to give you about it. It's true. $150 a week, not a lot of money, but pay them no mind. You need to learn this business, and this is the time to do it. Once you pass the test, none of that's going to matter. Your friends are They tell me you made 25 grand last month, they're not going to believe you. Them. Them. Parents don't like the life you lead? You, Mom and Dad. See how it feels when you're making their Lexus payments. Now go home and think about it. Think about whether or not this is really for you. If you decide it isn't, listen, it's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's not for everyone. Thanks. But if you really want this, you call me on Monday and we'll talk. Just don't waste my time.
All right, so in this scene, TJ, Ben Affleck comes in hot. This is the group interview, fires a couple people right off the bat. What stands out for you in this scene?
You know, for me, again, there were a lot of similarities to that other movie we were talking about before. But if I'm just going to focus on this scene right here, Ben Affleck comes in. You don't know after watching the movie if he is really just kind of like they are, and the trainers that he's training are more like the people that they're trying to sell. That's kind of like on a higher level. But for Ben Affleck in that moment, in that spot, he's basically just trying to call these guys out and say, look, this is what you're going to get. It's bang, bang, bang. You know, you want vacation? Don't ask about vacation. Pikers ask about vacation. Pikers look at the clock when it's 5 p.m. They're out. That's not what we're hiring. So if that's not what you want, get out. We're not hiring guys with Series 7s. You know, for you know, that we're training for that. So that's what it's all about. And basically he's just trying to scare the living what out of these guys to let them know you're in for a whole hell of a storm, for lack of a better term, if you do come on. And oh, by the way, call me Monday if you're still interested.
Yeah, that quote he says, you want vacation time? Go teach third grade public school, right? Well, I have memorized this, the opening here. This is actually part of our Behind Your Back podcast intro, right? This is the deal. I'm not here to waste your time, and I can only hope you're not here to waste mine. So I'm going to keep this short. That's how he starts. When I hear this, I often think of this phrase that I learned from Dr. Pat Surman, runs the construction management program at Texas A&M. He's a military guy. They have a military acronym called BLUF, B-L-U-F, bottom line up front. And I think this mentality, for being a salesperson myself, who has no problem running his own mouth, how are we being really succinct and value other people's time? And I think if more people can take this mindset of, if I have a meeting with TJ Shaheen, he's a busy dude, I'm going to come in, I've got a 30-minute meeting, my goal is to get out in 25. Why? I value your time, I value mine. I'm going to keep this short. I really love that, and it's always kind of playing in my mind. And if I'm being honest, I always do listen to the intro, even though I know exactly what it's going to say, to our own podcast,
right?
Because I think it's important.
Yeah, and it's so true. And I remember my first public speaking class in school, and one of the things that we learned was you have 30 seconds to capture an audience when you're trying to go up and give a speech on whatever. And that was what, 35, 40 years ago, and
right.
And here we are talking about someone's going to a class to learn about how to capture your audience, but that's what it really is. You have 30 seconds to catch an audience. If not, you lost them. I don't care if you're in a sales meeting, if you're interviewing for a job. That's really what you have, because after that, and for me and you, we have similar personalities. I'm here now. 2 seconds from now, I'm somewhere else. So you got to catch me in 3 seconds. So that's what it is. And I have new vendors come in, maybe trying to sell a product or a line. It's the same thing. Did you make an appointment? No. Okay, strike one. Number two, you've lost me. You're at 32 seconds, so this is over. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you got to be succinct for sure.
Well, somebody had mentioned this, which I find fascinating, and I listen to music differently now, especially the pop 40 stuff my kids listen to, is that in the culture, music, reflecting the change in mindset and attitude, if you've noticed, there used to be a standard setup for music, and the chorus would come in normally about 45 a minute in. You'd hear the chorus, you're going to hear it 3 times. Now, if you've noticed, the chorus comes first. Song comes on, bam, they're going to hit you with a catchy jingle. And I'm sure, right, it's a reflection of, it used to be, hey, you got 30 seconds, whatever. Now, you've got a few seconds. What are you doing to get me right off the bat? And from a sales perspective, planning that out. Oftentimes we will coach sales professionals prior to going to a meeting and say, okay, what are you going to open? What's the first question? I don't know. I gotta feel it out. I gotta see what happens. See what's on the shelf. I'm like, false. Yeah, maybe you have 2 options and you have some flexibility, but figure out what you're going to say. Don't shoot from the hip. That's stupid.
It's so true. And I think it is a whole nother level and a whole nother dynamic when you're trying to, say, prospect with emails. I get 30,000 emails a day. I would say 29,900 are just spam emails. So maybe I got to do a better job with my filter box. But
I think so.
All the subjects are always something different. And all of a sudden one came up and said, Ruth's Chris? ? I'm like, got me. I open it up because you never know, right? I'm like, maybe it's a friend. I don't know. Like, who the hell would invite me out to Ruth's Chris? But it was some guy out in California just trying to sell whatever he was selling. And so, yeah, so there's audible, right? So verbal, that's what we're speaking about. But then there's literally reading. How are you going to catch that person's eye? People are texting now. They find a way to get your cell numbers. Email, which we just spoke about. So it's a craft, and if you're good at it, I believe you can really have good success with it. But you cannot go in blind. You can't be uneducated, because if you do, you're wasting our time. And like Ben Affleck said, don't waste my time.
Yeah. The other thing he does here well that I think we do a really poor job in our industry is he shows the career path very succinctly, like 150 words. Your first 6 months at the firm as a trainee, you make $150 a week. After you're done training, you take the Series 7 test. When you pass, you become a junior broker. After you open 40 accounts, you begin working for yourself. Sky's the limit. Done. Put on a single sheet of paper, few words, you throw some illustrations. Before you know it, you have a 1-page career trajectory roadmap, right? And I think too often will talk to young folks, especially folks who leave during exit interview. They're like, I didn't know really where I was. They stuffed me behind the sales counter, told me I had to learn the business. Right. How long is that going to take? 3 months, 3 years, 30 years? I don't know. And so I think he does a real good job of that.
It is, but as leaders like we are, and with employees, you're selling yourself short. It's such an extrinsic point of view where it's just all about material. I think the leader of the firm, Michael, says at one point, go out, buy a house, buy a car, go put yourself in debt. You'll be a millionaire by the end of the month. These guys are going like maniacs. They're like, yeah, this is awesome. Let's do it. But is that what it's all about? Is it all about the money? It's not. And we know that because it doesn't work. When you drill down to your employees, they want more than that. They want to feel competent. They want to feel some sort of autonomy. They want to feel like they're part of something. And that's where we can get into the whole culture part of the movie too, which you can tell. It's you watch that movie and as a business owner and having employees that we have at our company, it actually makes me cringe a little bit.
Yeah. Agreed. All right. With that, let's jump into scene number 2.
Hi, Dr. Jacobs. This is Chris Marlin over at JT Marlin.
Marlin?
Right, he's my father.
He's my mother.
So my associate tells me you're interested in one of our stocks.
Your wife's on parade.
I will call her back. Yes, MSC sounds like it might be interesting.
Might be. Might be doesn't sell stock at the rate MSC is going for, Dr. Jacobs. We're talking very high volume here.
Oh, well, I still have to run it by my people.
That's great, Doc, if you want to miss yet another opportunity here and watch your colleagues get rich doing clinical trials.
Then don't buy a share and hang up the phone. Well, hold on a second now. I didn't say that. I just want to talk about it some more.
Honestly, Doc, I don't have the time. This stock is blowing up right now. The whole firm's going nuts. Hold on, let me open up the door to my office. See that, Doc? That's my trading floor. Now I have 1 million calls to make to 1 million other doctors who are already in the know.
I can't walk you through this right now.
I'm sorry.
Okay, let's do this.
Now, since you're a new account, I cannot go any higher than 2,000 shares. I'm sorry.
2,000?
Are you nuts? That is way beyond what I was thinking.
2,000?
Jesus. Listen, I'm curious. Why can't you
Tell me any more than that.
Well, we like to establish a relationship with our clients on something small before we get to the more serious trades. Let me show you several percentage points on this small trade, and then we'll talk about doing future business.
That sounds good. Give me the 2,000 shares.
Done.
You sure you can't do any better on this one?
I'm sorry, Dr. Jacobs. I can't. I'm sorry.
Oh, all right. We'll start with this trade then.
Great. I promise we'll swing for the fences on the next one. Do you want that confirmation sent to your office or your mansion?
Very funny, Mr. Marlin.
Let me put my secretary on, and she'll take down your info. It was a pleasure doing business with you. Done and done.
TJ Shaheen, here we go. Scene number 2, Giovanni Ribisi, who's basically setting the table, hammering out cold calls, gets a Dr. Jacobs, as it turns out, on the phone, gets this guy interested. There's a clinical trial of something going on. And because he's a junior broker, he sets the table, gets him interested. He has to make that handoff to a senior broker, which is Vin Diesel. That's when this clip begins here. What's your takeaway?
Well, again, I go back to the days where I used to get these calls, right? And you want to get these guys off the line, right? And nowadays we're getting these robocalls about credit card debt. We're getting calls about change your insurance rates, or maybe some voicemail in Mandarin Chinese or something that doesn't make any sense with this nice little music going around. So why in the world somebody would pick up a call like this in the first place? I don't know. But now he's got him on the line, and now he doesn't want to go. So that to me was like, what's going on here? So it kind of plays out into Vin Diesel's hand, obviously, because now he knows he's got a fish on,
right?
And he's just reeling him in. But the doctor, he's like, well, but yeah, maybe I will. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we talked about yesterday in our sales trainings that people will buy faster when they feel safe and they feel in control. And you can see the doctor going back and forth, and he's pushing back, saying, whoa, I'm not ready for this. looking for more information. And then all of a sudden he's like, forget the information. Now I'm in. And then he's like, whoa, 2,000 shares. But there's a few things that Vin Diesel does here. He brings in scarcity of his own time. I got 1 million calls to make. Are you in or are you out? There's other people. This is going to go fast. He also talks about, right, he compresses the time. He's like, listen, I need to know right now. The other thing, he leverages silence very well, right? Mm-hmm. He asks a question and he just shuts his mouth. And even in that scene, the silence is probably like 2 or 3 seconds, but you can feel it, right? Yeah. And I think too often sales professionals, they don't let silence do the heavy lifting that it can do. And if you just shut your mouth after you ask a question, especially if a closing question, right, proved value, we've talked about this numerous times. Are you ready to buy right now? Are you ready to sign? And just let that sit, right? Yep. Humans struggle with that. And too often we try to fill that void.
Well, I just felt it right now because I thought you were just going to be like, I'm looking for something to say, but I just saw what you were doing. So you had me hooked. It worked. But yeah, no, for sure. I really feel that people do talk way too much. They don't listen enough. And, you know, for that person to be asking the question, just stop. Now it's your turn to listen.
Correct.
And oh, by the way, there's a doctor also reviewing patient x-rays on the other end of the line. He's deciding whether he's going to buy 2,000 shares or not. How'd you like to be that guy's patient, right? So we think you may have broken your bones, but I got to take this trade right now.
Right. They also does a good job with this idea of an anchor, right? And in behavioral economics, they talk about this is a really fundamental principle, which is where we start. And I'm thinking more of a negotiation, where we start in the negotiation. And if I say, hey, TJ, I want you to come on the podcast. What do you think? You're like, I'm busy. I don't know if I can do it. How much time do you need? I'm like, dude, we're probably going to need like 3 hours. 3 hours, right? I have put this anchor way up here. Right. Now, we're not going to end up there. We're going to come down, right? Would I love to have 3 hours of your time? I would. But, right? And then we come down. So he sets that anchor at 2,000. He goes, whoa. You know, he was thinking, I don't know, 50 or 100 shares. You put it real high. Even if he backs down and says, I can't do that, let's cut it in half. I'll do 1,000. That is probably 10 times more than he was anticipating buying. So this concept of anchoring, I think, is so critical. And how often do you see this come up in negotiating your business? Because I often feel that sales professionals negotiate more with their own sales managers and leaders than they do with the customers.
We talk about a lot about it, but just dumb it down. You can talk about just an entry door, and you can't get enough for that. So I always tell, and I've always practiced and preached to my sales team, is that you can't get enough for it. Charge the max. You know, we can always step it down a little bit, but figure if you're measuring the door once, then you got to review the finishes, the swings. You take it out, they got to put it back in. They got to button it up all around it, and you probably spend 5 hours on sitting down negotiating stuff with the door when it takes you 5 minutes to maybe do a lumber order. Let's put it in that perspective.
Right.
But you have to earn your time. And your time's valuable. So when it comes to something like that, you don't sell yourself short. Always reach for that anchor and put it out there because, yeah, you can step it back a little bit, but you know, your time is money and you can't make enough of it to do it. And I think so many people are so quick just to throw it away. Yeah. And it's just doesn't make any sense because you're just throwing so you're nothing. Your time is no value. No, be confident. Show your value and put it out there and earn it.
Yeah. Yesterday at our sales training, we did exercise we call determine your hourly rate. Because too often salespeople say, hourly rate, I don't have one. Sky's the limit. No one can stop me. And you're like, actually, false. There's only a certain number of hours in a day and a week that you can work. And you have a goal of what you want to make at the end of the year. So you want to make 200 grand? Great. Let's figure it out. Let's divide it by 12, right? Monthly, then let's break it by 4 into weekly, and you break it down to an hourly rate. And these guys will often say, oh, I guess my hourly rate it's like $93. And you're like, actually, it doesn't even account for opportunity cost. So double it. You're like, oh, okay. But I think unless you do that and you're constantly keeping this in front of your mind, you're going to forget that your time is valuable. You know this. Yet in practice, you give it away all the time. And I think we often see that in margins that aren't nearly as high as they should be, especially on your special order custom front door and all that sort of stuff.
And people get stuck in a rut, and it's just automatic. It's just, this is what it's going to be, and they just send it in, and they just get used to it because they're in that comfort zone.
Yep.
But when right now you're shooting fish in a barrel, you have a market that's hot,
Yep.
And you're not taking advantage of it. That's on you, and that's. And you can try to lead salespeople all along, but at the end of the day, if you're your own business as a sales rep, you have to be searching for these opportunities, taking advantage of it. Don't get stuck in a rut, and realize that you're valuable. You're valuable to your customer, especially your repeat business out there, and you deserve that. And don't throw it away. It's a sin.
Yep. All right, let's go to clip number 3. This is my favorite clip in the movie. And if I'm taking my top 20 sales movies of all time, top 15 in there, and I'm pulling out 3 or 4 scenes from each one, this is going to be in my top 5. I absolutely love the scene. Let's dig into it now. This is Giovanni Ribisi, Seth. He's at home on a Saturday morning eating some cereal. Do you notice what he's eating?
Was it Wheaties? Or no, it was a
Close.
Repa?
Shredded wheat without the frosting.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Unacceptable.
Yeah,
Anyway, he's slurping that down, and he gets a call at his kitchen table, and someone is selling him. Let's dig into that now.
Hello?
Hi, Mr. Davis. This is Ron calling you from the Daily News. How you doing this morning?
It's Davis, and I'm not interested.
Okay, I'm sorry to have bothered you. Have a nice day.
Wait a minute. Wait, that's your pitch? You consider that a sales call?
Well,
You know, I get a call from you guys every Saturday, and it's always the same half-assed attempt. If you guys want to close me, you should sell me.
all right.
All right, start again.
Okay. Hi. This is Ron from the Daily News. How you doing this morning?
What do you want?
It's not what I want, sir. It's what you want.
Ron, now we're talking. All right, what are you selling me?
I'm offering you a subscription to the Daily News at a substantially reduced price. We're trying to reach out to people that have never had home delivery before.
Right, so basically you're saying that everybody else who already has a subscription is getting on this one?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, well, I can handle that. So tell me, why should I buy your paper? I mean, I mean, why shouldn't I get the Times or the Voice,
Well, the Village Voice is free, sir, so if you want it, you should certainly pick it up. But the Daily News offers you something no other paper can, a real taste of New York. We have the best features, more photographs than any other daily in New York, and we have the most reliable delivery in the city. Now, what do you think?
You know what I think, Ron? I think that was a sales call. Good job, buddy.
So you're going to buy a subscription?
No, I already get the Times.
So that scene with Seth, he's at home. It's Saturday morning. He's eating whatever nasty cereal that was. But yeah, he gets this call, this prospect call about a newspaper guy who wants to sell him a subscription service. And the guy is calling on a Saturday morning. So that tells you one thing: he's probably got nothing working out for him. But Seth kind of turns the conversation around. Yeah. And you see at the end of the day that he is trying to now be the teacher and show this guy who's just prospecting him, just happens to pick up the phone to Seth and starts getting a lesson on how to sell newspapers. And he just doesn't let him go within the first couple 30 seconds or a minute. He basically makes him suffer through the whole interview process of why he called up to sell him the newspaper, but he's basically trying to sell him back to say, look, you can be better than this, and this is how you're going to do it. And at the end of the phone conversation, you kind of pick up the authenticity of Seth, and that does he really need to go through, if we back up to this whole movie where he was in that room full of trainees, does he really need to go through that process? Because I feel that he is authentic. He is genuine, where all those other guys we spoke about earlier are so much more about that extrinsic value of just making money and material items, where Seth at the end of the day is a really good guy. The only problem is just he disappointed his dad. And that's a whole nother issue. But yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because we hadn't talked about it, but I said it's not in a scene. It's the underlying current that drives the entire movie, which is earning respect from his father, who's the judge,
right,
who looks down upon his son for the bad choices he's made of running his own casino and then joining, JT Marlin. We should come back to that because in our industry, multi-generational families, you know something about this, these businesses about the sometimes unspoken, but very, very real. And you can often sense it. I will come into, some of these early meetings I have with our new clients, and I'm like, okay, there is a dynamic here at play. And oftentimes it's father and son, but not always, right? We have uncles and aunts and different cousins and stuff. Anyway, we're going to set that aside for now. I like what Seth says. All right, now we're talking, right? He reframes it to start again. And he says, what are you selling? This seems obvious, right? We know what we're selling. I can tell you this is false. Sometimes we don't know what we're selling.
Right.
And in the sales training yesterday, we go through these and we get a video camera out and we put some salespeople in front of actual business owners. And we have a 20-minute hard stop meeting. In one of them, they went 13 minutes with preparation. And at the 13th minute, the business owner says, all right, can we just slow down for a minute? What are you guys trying to sell me? And the reaction from the people who were there were like, oh gosh, we screwed this up. We're 13 minutes into a 20-minute conversation. We haven't even told them what we're trying to sell them. That blows my mind, but this is common, right?
Yeah, it is. But if you go back, it's such a basic, in that scene, it's so basic. It's a newspaper subscription. What's important to you if you're going to go into that and say, all right, yeah, and you're Seth and you've done it, you're slap of this guy who called you on a Saturday morning and you say, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna, you got me. I'll do the subscription. What matters to you? When you wake up the next morning, that newspaper's there in your driveway, not just that day, every day at a certain point before you leave for work. And if it's not there, you're no different than anybody else. So that's what I want. If I'm Seth, that it could be a newspaper, it could be a milk delivery, it could be my Kepco bottle, spring water delivered to my house. I want it there when I want it there. So basically it's about, if you're selling me something, you're making a promise, you need to show that to me. It needs to be constant. It needs to be repetitive to the point where I can trust you, because that comes over time. It's not that first newspaper delivery. It's day after day, consistency. That's what you're selling, but you have to prove that. So when we talk about prospecting, you're trying to sell something, it's so hard just to make that scratch into that surface. But then once you're in, that's fine. It doesn't end there. You don't flip a switch and you hand it over and say, all right, now take this ball and run with it. You have to be consistent. You have to be repetitive, because that trust is earned over time. And that trust is so important to that relationship, because that's how we run our business. And I believe why we've been so successful is just because we have customers that have been with us for generations, just as our business has been, but it's because of that trust that was developed so long ago and continues to this day, because we're consistent, we're genuine, and we care.
We often see this with sales processes, and many of our clients, they don't have a sales process. We start putting it in, they'll say, oh, we're just going to put that as follow-up. I go, what does follow-up mean? Well, it means like a million things. I'm like, we need to codify that. What are the behaviors? What's the checklist? Because follow-up is where that trust is built, right? The other thing here too is, this is straight out of Miller Hyman kind of sales strategy 101 stuff, which is, what is your single sales objective? Too often we talk to sales pros and I'll say, okay, you're going to this meeting, you're going to lunch, you're taking them to Chipotle, whatever you're doing. What is your single sales objective? Oh, I don't know. I just want to build a relationship, get closer. No, every point of contact should have a single sales objective, and you should be able to have a couple different layers of that to know that we're building towards the right thing. And that's what I kind of took away when he says, all right, what are you selling, right? At that point, what is your single sales objective? Well, it's quite frankly, he's pitching, your delivery, which you point out, but also the content within the Village voice. How is it different?
And I also do think that it's really about listening. So on that phone call, it's such a tough medium to work with, because you're dealing with a phone and listening. You're not seeing the person, you're just hearing. And it's so important to listen. So if you're going out to, say, having lunch with a customer, with a vendor, and you're just kind of starting off with somebody, you have to listen. And it's not all about you. Find out what it's about, that person's, who they are, their history, all sorts of things, but find out about them, because nobody wants to hear about you.
Right.
And listen. And I think if you can listen and just stop talking, and you will get a lot more gain from that for the next meeting that you have.
Yeah.
But for this, it's like anything else, right? It's the Village Voice, it's the Daily News. It's like, why do you go to a certain coffee shop on your street when there's a million other ones you can go to? It's consistent. they're friendly. You enjoy going. You look forward to going there. You want to do business with them again, and that's really where that success ratio comes in. Because if you as a customer enjoy going to that place to do business, get your cup of coffee, buy that newspaper, or choose that lumber and building material supplier, that you've got it. And make that and replicate it a million times.
Yeah. All right, let's come into scene number 4. The team is not performing up to the standards of Mr. Ben Affleck, so he's coming in with a little bit of motivation.
I'm gonna keep this short, okay? You passed your 7s over a month ago. Seth's the only one that's opened the necessary 40 accounts for his team leader. When I was a junior broker, I did it in 26 days, okay? You're not sending out press packets anymore. None of this Debbie the Time Life operator bull. So get on the phones. It's time to get to work. Get off your ass. Move around. Motion creates emotion. I remember one time I had this guy call me up, wanted to pitch me, right? Wanted to sell me stock. So I let him. I got every rebuttal out of this guy. Kept him on the phone for an hour and a half. Towards the end, I started asking him buying questions, like what's the firm minimum? That's a buying question. Right there, that guy's got to take me down. It's not like I asked him, what's your 800 number? That's a off question. I was giving him a run, and he blew it, okay? To a question like, what is the firm minimum? The answer is 0. You don't like the idea, don't pick up a single share. This putz is telling me, 100 shares. Wrong answer, no. You have to be closing all the time and be aggressive. Learn how to push. Talk to him. Ask him questions. Ask him rhetorical questions. Doesn't matter, anything. Just get a yes out of him. If you're drowning and I throw you a life jacket, would you grab it? Yes, good. Pick up 200 shares. I won't let you down. Ask them how they'd like to see 30, 40% returns. What are they going to say? No? F you. I don't want to see those returns. Stop laughing. It's not funny. If you can't learn how to close, you better start thinking about another career. And I am deadly serious about that. Dead f***ing serious. And have your rebuttals ready. Guy says, call me tomorrow? Bullshit. Somebody tells you that they got money problems about buying 200 shares is lying to you. You know what I say to that? I say, hey, look, man. Tell me you don't like my firm. Tell me you don't like my idea. Tell me you don't like my f***ing necktie. But don't tell me you can't put together $2,500. And there is no such thing as a no-sale call. A sale is made on every call you make. Either you sell the client some stock or he sells you on a reason he can't. Either way, a sale is made. The only question is, who's going to close, you or him?
So TJ, yesterday in the sales training, we were talking about, in general, just wrapping up. Once you have earned the commitment, you've proven value, don't assume that it's the responsibility of the buyer to initiate that closing process. You have to ask for what you want. And a guy named David in the back who does a lot of sales training for a company who had some folks attending said too often they're afraid to ask that last question, basically to close them. And obviously in this movie, right, it's the hard sell, it's the close on something that they probably don't believe in. It's all about money. For us, it's really just the conclusion, the summation of the buying process. But sometimes we spend all this time and you just have to ask a question that, yeah, I guess there might be some risk of rejection, of getting a no, but quite frankly, that's almost rare these days. How often do you see things kind of linger on because we're not asking that closing question?
It happens for sure. And not only that, how about the complete opposite, knowing when to walk away, knowing to say, sure, this is not worth my time. That's major, because if not, we don't need the exercise in this business to be just spinning our wheels, right. Especially with how hard it is to, everyone's time is completely been squeezed. The market's been crazy. Being able to get people to work for you is hard enough. So the resources are squeezed. So time is squeezed. That only compounds things. So if I'm doing this and we're going down that road, you better have a good idea preemptively to know, is this going to be a sale? Because if not, it's okay to walk away. Again, we don't need the exercise. So, do your due diligence as your own person. Again, we talked earlier about not throwing away your time in margin. Don't throw your time away either in prospecting to get that sale, to get to that last step, because you're pretty much doing the same thing. We talk about time management. That's one of your big categories for you. But we have to break it down on such a finite level with each salesperson that is working for you so that they know, it is okay to walk away from a sale. Or what are you preemptively doing to make sure that the best chance that the sale is going to close with you? And that's where that salesperson has to have that sixth sense to know, what, I think this is going to work. And there's a way to do that, right? But it's more of an art rather than, all right, if you get to step 2, then go to 3, then jump to 4. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It's not as black and white in my opinion anyway.
Yeah. So I love this line. I'm going to read it for you. Tell me your thoughts. Jim says, if you can't close, then start thinking about another career. I'm serious. I'm dead serious about that. Have your rebuttals ready.
If I'm hearing that and I'm in that room, I'm probably not in that room listening to that conversation, because it just goes to show you, it is, they really don't care. And you almost wonder if that statement of what Jim said is really more about really what is going down this pyramid and hierarchy, that it's filtering into these trainees' ears, and then they're all going out and banging phones, when at the end of the day, the only fly in the ointment for that whole room is Seth. Because he's the one who's authentic. He's the one that's listening. It really doesn't pertain to him. It's really pertaining to all the other people that are out there. And so it's almost like that. It's not even an 80-20 rule. It's like 99-1% rule, where that's what they're trying to bank their money on, that they're going to get maybe 1% of the calls, that one person that's going to say yes and take it. So rebuttals, that is what they're going to get, right? Yeah. So it's kind of like don't expect the unexpected, expect the expected, and can you handle it?
Yep. Yeah. Pure law of large numbers.
Yeah.
We're going to convert 1% of these calls. So if we only make 100 of them, but if each one of you guys do 1,000 a day, right?
Right.
I like, though, this idea about rebuttals. We'll call them objections. We always get objections, right? And when we're working with teams, I will say, okay, let's think about whether existing customers or prospects we're going after, what are the most common objections we hear? And initially, there's often this mindset of, oh my gosh, there's hundreds of them. Like, generally, there's not. Generally, there's somewhere between a dozen and maybe 24. But the 80-20 rule will certainly apply to those. You're going to hear these ones come up again and again and again. And again, this might be hey, we're buying framing. Turns out they are putting kitchens in their homes. We sell kitchens. We just don't sell them kitchens. Why? Well, they have an objection. They're buying it from somebody else. This is the way we've always done it, whatever. But too often, we're not really thinking, okay, we hear the same objections again and again and again. Have we been thoughtful about the fastest way to get by them to determine if we're a fit? We're not going to close all of them, but too often we do a poor job of articulating that. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and it's called sweat equity. That's how you're going to get through. You have to be persistent, persevere. You have to find a way, and sometimes that door is not open.
Right.
You have to wait for your time, and I don't care if it's you're trying to move up in your career, or if you're trying to win a customer. Wait for your time, be patient, and when that time comes, you only get one shot. You may get another one, but you have to treat every time you get an opportunity. You win, you move on. You lose, you go home. Yep. And that's the way it is, okay? And if you live by that mantra, when you have that opportunity, step in, do the best that you can do, and then repeat and repeat. Be consistent, and that business will stay there. And then we're talking about that time log starting to lengthen, and that comes with the trust and the love and the support that you get from your customer until he's locked in with you. And that once it becomes a certain amount, maybe it's like 36 inches, you can put that around your waist, and now you got the belt on, right? You got the championship belt because you won that customer, and you got to do that again and again and be the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world.
I'm glad we're, in addition to capturing audio, we're capturing video, because I wasn't sure where we were going.
Yeah,
but we defined it, 36 inches.
It was like, like a mine prop belt with big gold buckle on it. Yeah,
that feels right. Yeah. That feels right. Well,
lots of diamonds too. Yeah, lots of diamonds. Yeah, rhinestones.
Big belt buckles down here.
A lot of leather.
All right, let's bring this bad boy home here. So again, Boiler Room. If you haven't watched it, not a great movie. It's not. The music also, Eric and I, we were watching it together. The music comes right out. The leather jackets. I don't know why we'd ever think what's her name? Abby? the
Yes,
receptionist,
Abby, yeah,
why
yeah.
she would ever
Yeah.
consider going out with Seth. The pulled back hair, the leather jackets. I struggled with that. However, from a sales perspective, this is mandatory viewing because of the sales aspects of it. And overall, pretty good flick.
Yeah, it is a good one, and it's enjoyable to watch. And when you break it down, and again, for anybody that's young, that's coming into the business,
Yeah.
I think that it'd be a great, just something a resource to watch. Everybody's business is different, but if you're in sales, you can take a lot of different things from a lot of different movies and put them in your arsenal, put them in your quiver, and see what works for you. If you're not trying, then you're not selling.
Yeah. And the reality is, good economy, bad economy, our business is never going to sell like that. It's a completely exaggerated sense of sales, right? So we're never going to be doing this sort of cold calling. However, I think you can watch it, and certain elements here I think would absolutely be good sales training elements to think about. So, TJ Shaheen, LT Gray, I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for watching The Boiler Room. Sometime in the future, American Psycho, Tropic Thunder, Fletch maybe, we'll see.
Popcorn, I'm in.